In 4, 3, 2, 1, we're in the sun. I feel much better. It was a bit moody, but I got some things done. Gotta turn my head left and right. Now we're on the backpack. You know the drill, marching dance workout for the firefighters, butchers, bakers, nurses, plumbers, electricians, and it is a hot day. Gonna drop some of that garbage. Always grateful, thankful my rent's paid, electricity bills paid, got food and coffee. Actually gonna run out of coffee in tomorrow. Well, okay, maybe not tomorrow, but tomorrow's Thursday, Friday. Maybe I can stretch it until Saturday, but then I'm gonna run out of it. So hey, 4 days max. I gotta double check, but I think I got four cups. So if I think 4 days. Gotta be grateful nonetheless. Paid my rent, paid my electricity bill, and got a little bit of that coffee. Got tea. I can replace it by tea. So if I don't have money to buy that coffee, because I really need to get that remote control, you know where we're headed. Because yesterday we went to check on those prices, and I had that budget up, and I was kind of concerned and a bit about some of the prices, but I guess we're gonna buy the cheapest one, which is gonna go with Canadian Tire and get it bought. I'm even thinking of going tomorrow, but I don't really want to procrastinate over much. You know how it is with procrastination sometimes. You just gotta stop procrastinating and do it. It's just not really procrastination, it's just more of budgeting, but I gotta get it, because if I damage the old one, you know, it was a gift. It was a kind of gift slash loan, and it was from my anonymous friend. So that's what I gotta be drilling on that, and gotta be drilling on that go, and that is something which I gotta be meditating about in all the circumstantial apparatus that, you know, it wasn't mine. So gotta repair it for that, and that is something which I gotta be doing with that, and that is something where we have to be doing, you know. So that is something which we gotta be drilling in, you know. And financially stressed. I was moody a bit, moody, celebrating marking 8 years since I conquered depression, you know. I was depressed and suicidal for a few days, and until September 20th, summer 2017, between August and mid-August to mid-September, of course, I conquered depression and being suicidal. And since I survived COVID in 2020, I live every day carpe diem, you know, that. And there's just rock and roll. Tough times, you know, economically, socially, for the North American Collective, for the world, you know. And I gotta live every day carpe diem, as it would be my last day. And sometimes we got to begin our fitness journey today, and that 4-letter holy word, you know, W-I-L-L, will, you know. So don't waste my time, I won't waste yours. Friends with benefits only, you know. There's just something which we're gonna drill, friends with benefits only, and that's how we're gonna play it from now on. And of course, all the parallels where we are together. I guess the dogs are barking on much, and get a little bit of that dog bark over there. They're not barking on me, but maybe. I love flashy colors, so wearing on that. No, they're not barking on me. I love dogs, but mostly from afar. You know, if they're not poodles, I can't pet them too much. So that is, of course, something which I gotta be imagining about, of course, of all the dimensions where we are now in the natural. Myself as a natural Asp. I'm calling on myself, being that I have Asperger's, and being that this neurological mental divergent condition makes me a bit different, and social interactions can be a bit more on the awkward, bizarre side, and strange, but not Asperger's. You know, Aspies are not evil, bad, or negative, or anyway such a matter as they are, but it's of course something which we gotta interject, and we gotta of course work with, and we gotta find the solutions. And somebody's going a little bit checking that fridge, in the community fridge there, and I guess I wish I could fill it up once too, myself. Once I wish I could just fill it up with goodies, you know, just fill it up. That's my dream once, just to fill it up in Concordium and see, turn your heads left and right, and it's first come, first serve. And I hope one day I just get to make some money and just fill it up, you know, just fill up with goods, fill up with chocolates for the children, sweets for the children, and bananas and fruits and meats, whatever I could afford, I guess, to fill it up with, because it's tough economic times, and that serves as food security. And you know, I take more than I put nowadays. I take more than I put, you know, and gotta turn your heads left or right here, you know, and that is something where I gotta turn the head right, and that is something which I gotta, of course, myself be mindful about in all the dynamics where we are now, to be conclusive. And and that is something which I gotta be doing on that. And see, you got a little bit for somebody for that, and somebody can take a little bit of that, and that is just something which I have to, of course, come to the see here, and the food and the sunshine food. See, you got a little bit of that, and that's empty. So yeah, I wish I could fill this up one day, you know, and yeah, one day I wish I could fill it up. Maybe tomorrow, you never know. Look at those beautiful flowers, and that day is gonna be better than earlier than later. That's what I got, and that is something which I gotta be doing myself, you know. If I could do it today, I would do it, but I'm financially stressed, and I gotta replace that remote control, you know. I gotta replace it because it was a gift, you know, and a loan gift, and I kind of greased it up. I think I'm responsible for damaging it, unless it's planned obsolescence, but I guess I could have taken better care of it, you know. I think I could have taken better care of it and taking care of this body now. You know, look at this. I just love this. This is really nice. I love this garden here. Somebody put that arbite labor there with the garden. These beautiful flowers still here, just embellishing the beautiful yellows, and these ones are also nice. So thank you to the person who worked with brains and muscle to put these. These are kind of more rare. I haven't seen them that recently, and of course I love those yellow flowers, but thank you to whoever put this here. You know, it's kind of cool for me. And you see you got more flowers here on the side. Please pick up that after, don't leave that trash there. But these are also nice with the little white flowers there on the side. And these are, of course, another ones which are kind of cute, you know. Yeah, kind of cute there, you know, and that's what it is for that. And that is something which I gotta be manifesting in all the civilizational complexes where we are now. And this hot island Montreal, you know. I wonder how much rent is over here. How much rent is, doesn't seem to be for rent. I'm not planning to move because I don't have the money, but I wish I could give my anonymous friend a house, buy her a house, you know. I wish I could give my anonymous friend a house to be doing it with that. But that is something which, of course, we got to be meditating upon, you know. I wonder how much it is, how much it costs to rent. How much would it cost to rent there for annual, monthly, I guess. You got to get a monthly, and I'm grateful for where I will live now, because I used to live in a very moldy place. I'm still on the island. A few years ago I moved, 10 years ago actually, and I left a very moldy underground place, and that reminds me I also gotta do a little bit of scrubbing now for mold in the bathtub. So yeah, I'm grateful where I live now, and just wanted to contrast I was just curious by curiosity, you know, how much they pay rent over there for 1.5, 2.5, 3.5, 4.5, and here and in all places of Montreal, you know, just curious if you wanna do some work with yours truly for the North American Collective. I'm more about work and my dream, my ideas, theories, protocols, initiatives, which are for the North American Collective, for a mass public-private partnership. That's what I'm mostly about, you know, in this 20, where we are now, integrated in all the life-affirming matters that I gotta spit that gratitude out. Grateful, thankful. My rent's paid, electricity bill's paid, and that's what I gotta get doing with that, and that's how I gotta get that rock and roll sometimes, you know. And always rock and roll for the butchers, the bakers, the nurses, the doctors, the plumbers, the electricians, the train conductors, those in the daycares changing some diapers, you know, as we're gonna go. Oh, yeah, the Canadian Tire, yeah, Canadian Tire, you know. So we're gonna get, because I got just enough money to buy that remote, and that's gonna add a little bit of a burden on my September budget. But hey, I paid my rent, paid my electricity bill, paid my rent, the only bill I have left, of course, is to pay, of course, until September 30th, you know, until September 30th. I gotta pay my phone bill, so that would be the third bill. So I got 2 weeks left, because actually 13 days, you know, it's the 17th already, so days go by. It's Wednesday, 17th already, and although financially stressed, was moody earlier, now I'm happy, joyous. I passed by those flowers, and I gotta disinfect my hands, because just give me a second, because I touch the handles of the fridge, and, you know, personal hygiene in the public. I urge all, of course, to keep the protocols of public hygiene protocols, public hygienic protocols. So I'm gonna just wash the hands now a bit. I got that disinfectant, and you never know, bacteria is something which affects and we have it on us, and sometimes we take it and we transport it, and we're in the public. So in the public I have myself added responsibilities, duties, and obligations which under the normal circumstances of Concordium I wouldn't have not had. So here it is. Gonna disinfect the hands, disinfect with the antiseptic, then disinfect with that antiseptic now, overall the civilizational complex is where we are now to get on that disinfectant. So I'm not getting any sponsors, it's just that I want to show this tiny antiseptic hand sanitizer. Give me some seconds, I'm gonna just apply it now and rub my hands. Yeah, there's something like that. Yeah. There we go. Oh, I put a little bit too much, but I guess I'm gonna use it well. So 10, 20 seconds. 20, 19, 18, 17, 16, 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Of course, we gotta get it on the go. And what happened? What happened? Bad things. Proof. Bad things happen to my enemies. You saw? Bad things happen to my enemies. My name is Drip. The mix. You saw? Anyways, so this is what I was saying, look at those beautiful flowers there. Wow, those flowers are really beautiful. Whoever put those flowers there, they're exquisite. Exquisite. That's the word. I really like Neapolitan. That just makes me smile so much. That just makes me smile so much. And hey, somebody left some fries. You never know, hey, these fries and like some calories. If World War III commences and nuclear war is launched, I'm gonna have a heads up by eating these fries. It's food, no waste food, but I guess maybe you had your fill. But right at the corner, I'm gonna inspect. Yeah, fries. I got fries for when I get back, because you never know, ICBM rockets, nuclear war could start any minute, So better hug like you never hugged before today. Life is short, Life is short. Life is short, So that is something which we gotta get doing, Gotta be grateful for that. And this, I wish I could paint it, paint a little bit of that good, and just it's so gray. It's so gray with that, and that's just something which we gotta be doing, That is so gray, and that is so gray. Yeah, it needs a little bit of color. It would uplift my mood, Get it yellow, get it red, get it orange, get it green, get it some of that good. Get us some of that good. Get us some of that good. Good rock and roll, For the firefighters, plumbers, bakers, electricians, truckers on the road, LOVE, rather than LOV, millionaires, billionaires, and whoever. Give them a massage, Because words can only do so much, Words can only do so much, you know. Words are important, philosophies are important, and action also, you know. Both got to be counterbalanced. And that counterbalance has to be poised, you know. And maybe I was saved because I saved others along the way. Maybe I was saved because I saved others along the way. And that is just what it is with that. And that is just how we got to rig that rock and roll from now on, you know. Beautiful goodness and kindness. Always down to volunteer, do acts of goodness and kindness. And my difference being that I'm an N.A.C.W.P is not malicious, it's not bad, it's not negative. It is different, so I have to discuss it a bit. And as I mentioned before, you know, gotta spit my gratitude out again. And grateful, thankful that my rent's paid my rent for the month of September, paid my electricity bill to Hydro-Quebec. It's always go Hydro-Quebec, go. Paid my rent, paid my electricity bill. The only bill I have left to pay, the third one, is the phone bill. But I got some food left over, so I just found the corner there, some fries. I guess they ate the hamburgers and the other hamburgers, cheeseburgers, whatever they were, and they left the whole fries with this. So I'm gonna smell them, inspect them close eye before I eat them, because you know I don't want to get that poison, I guess. So, and I'll be discerning like a detective, like it's a case of biological warfare, you know. And maybe an archangel just dropped it. He said, "Here, I know how much money you got. You can't buy hamburgers, you can't buy cheeseburgers, but your ideas are gold." And the goddess credited me with trillions of kisses, by which I'm laying the foundations for our coming empire of the 63, for the SSD total and the insurance of freedom. We gotta ensure that freedom and rehabilitate our brothers and sisters, you know, who need to be a little bit on that rehabilitation. I got my second chances, I guess third, fourth. I'm on my fourth rebirth, and you know, and it's been a tough journey and pain, blood, sweat, and tears, and scars. And now I have a smile because I'm happy, joyous, and content, you know. And I want others to be happy and content and joyous as well, you know, not just for myself. And I'm always open for business, pleasure and business. And my dream, the dancing goddess in the dragon kingdom, again, is fundamentally a call for a public-private partnership. This is new here, new hotel. And my ideas, of course, when I see hotels, motels, relate about the tourism initiative in our empire, our individual and collective coming of the Democratic Republican Empire of the 63, as we can fuse Canada and the United States. Of course, is something which we got concomitantly to do, and all the appellation, of course, of all the financial matters, which are, of course, now co-equivalent to me passing at this point in time here, and imagining what all the work that's being done now with the sand there, and of course all the work that's being done, of course, to put the work, the brains and the muscle for the public workers to, of course, build their constructions and replace the sewers, replace the canals, and change those aqueducts. You know what they're doing now here, the rehabilitation of the aqueduct is super important, eh? Look at this work, and that's what we got to get doing with that. And that is something which I have to do together in the concomitant, of course, evaluation of all these works that I don't know about, but of course they're part of course, all the work where we are also affected, right? Because we have potable water and electricity. This is our privilege of civilization. So this meditation, rock and roll meditation, about how incorporated, infused, integrated, and interconnected, of course, they are. How interconnected, infused they are, of course. The sewers and the plateau and all these things which are involved on a daily basis. When we open the tap water, we open the tap to drink that tap water, you know. We open, of course, the tap water. We open, take a shower, and that's all the public works. And this civilization is a privilege, you know. Civilization is a privilege. That was my thesis back in 2023, the privilege of civilization. And this is a exact work. And in the 20th century, there has been so much work and labor done by the workers to replace the aqueducts, the sewers, to create the aqueducts, the sewers right here. And of course to renew it, because we have mass need for work in the 20th century that has been done in the 20th century to continue it now in the 21st century. Mass labor, mass work needs to be done. It's really, 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 if you think about it, they are not just our underground, but under also the roads, the highways, the bridges, the bridges, the highways. That is something which we have, of course, to do together in the circumstantial positions where we find ourselves now, right? Because all this is a big privilege. When you open your tap water, you take a shower, the bathroom, sanitation. Civilization is a privilege, or the privilege of civilization, as my thesis goes back to 2023, which I gotta discuss in the coming days, weeks, and months ahead. Again, revise, and it's online. All my philosophies, theories are pretty much on my YouTube channel, some Facebook lives, and on that Instagram, I rap for the farmers, butchers, bakers, nurses, truckers, firefighters, plumbers, electricians, always for the public workers as I march now in the sun, but just to do a meditation, because I am an independent geopolitical theoretical analyst, theorist, philosopher, thinker, and strategist, and artist, athlete, and due to me having this neurological mental condition named Asperger's, also known as HFA, that's my special interest, geopolitics, and of course, just integral to geopolitics is the... See, that's what it says there. Potable water. Potable water. As an ASPE, I always wonder what those numbers, details of those numbers are. I see that is that the year or the date or vice versa? Is it February 21st, 2020? Exactly when I had COVID. But this one says November 15, 20. Is it November 15th of November 2017, I guess? 17, right? So there's a few years co-equidistance, and they work together. See how they're interconnected, different years of manufacturing. And I wanted to see if it's made in Canada or made in the US. As an ASPE, I always check those details of those numbers, and I know they have a significance. But of course, first and foremost, I salute the workers in the public, always for the 63, the 10, the 50, and the 3. And it's Westlake Pipe, it says there. Westlake Pipe, see? Go public workers, go Westlake Pipe, and made in USA. Made in USA, Westlake Pipe. Thank you for making it in the USA. And it's really unfortunate what's happening now. And my way to fuse Canada, United States was a mass public-private partnership best. Don't be so effing selfish, me and his, being his. We need to mass finance a mass public works. And this is made in the USA. See, and this is a different date here. We only know October. That was November and February. And I think I saw... Yeah, see, it's made in USA. Made in USA. Good job. Happy for the workers being put to work. And I had many jobs myself during COVID. And unfortunately for my community, we lose the jobs often because we're different. And social communication can be strange, awkward, weird, bizarre, and outright odd. ODD. And thus, the ways we communicate sometimes can be strange. But I'm going to spend a few minutes on Asperger's now that I just touched upon it. It's important for me to discuss it because we have some issues and some work to do in terms of as how we are ASPEs. We have some work to do, and of course that work, of course, which we need to be doing, of course, is in parallel to all the work that I'm doing now. All the work that I'm doing now. So think about it, eh? Think about it. Just to have this work here, I'm only imagining, I only know a little bit about it, but it requires so much brain and so much muscle. So that's why we got portable water. Imagine, just to have that. All these pipes. Hey, really incredible work. And it's all across Canada, United States, the North American Collective underneath. There's hundreds of thousands of kilometers and miles just like this underneath. I guess it requires a little bit of imagination, but there's an actual number. There's an actual number. There's an actual amount right in. So this is another aspect how the brain is different, and how, of course, how Asperger brain is, of course, different. And of course, due to this difference of the Asperger brain, we got to get it on the go now to get it doing. And the evaluation there, see, all the Asperger's brain is something which, of course, we have to be interjected about. And of course, this Asperger's brain is that our brain functions in the different modalities, and we interpret and do different information. How we process information is different, divergent, not bad, not evil, not negative. But see how now I'm trying, of course, to calculate how much there is how much there is. How much there is underneath, you know? How much there is underneath of cables, of structures, all the cables and structures, how much they're underneath. How much they're underneath, you know? How much they're underneath. And that is something which, of course, we gotta interject, you know? So that is just how we are now. You know, how we are now. That our brain is just meditating on, always for the 63, the 10 provinces, the 50 states, and the 3 territories, because I'm not just an Aristotle philosopher, but also a mystic. Also a mystic. So I was born in the United States, many past lives, many incarnations. Sometimes a man, sometimes a woman, sometimes a woman, sometimes a man, and sometimes a man, a woman, and sometimes on that go, a man, a woman, and that is something which we, of course, have to be doing today in all the circumstantial position where we are now, you know, to be meditating about the thousands and thousands of kilometers and miles underneath the sewers that allow our big cities and small cities and the functionality of our sanitation system, the bathtub, bathroom, and this having water, potable water, having water to drink, and having all sorts of water to drink, and all that collective, you know, for the individual as a sovereign citizen and for the collective. So all that requires a little bit of meditation. Of course, there's a different number, because I'm, of course, in the island of the hawk. And me being, of course, that means the island of the hawk, that is, of course, all the transponency things where we are, of course, in the civilizational context of this amazing thing we call civilization, of which we have the privilege as individuals. Now I have the privilege of civilization, for example, walking on the pedestrian, right? Because it was built with brains and muscle, with labor, to build civilization, to maintain it. So of course that is something which, of course, we have, of course, to do, and to do with that, and to do with that, and that is what it is with that, and that is what it is for the go, you know, always for the 10, the 50, and the 3, and always for the civilizational context where we are now, in the intermittent of all the plurality of we are now, to get it on the go, and of course to be in all the manners where we are now, transducive, to translate in mathematical language all the privilege of civilization, and all this privilege of civilization, which is embodied in different modalities of our collective. Meaning an individual, somebody now is flushing the toilet, right? That is part of the sanitation. Somebody's taking a shower, somebody's taking a bath, because we got also time zones, so it varies. Somebody's cooking with the water, washing dishes. Yeah, this is N.A.C.W.P brains. Our brains are different, eh? So we are also inclined towards mathematics, right? So evaluating the number of sewers and canals for the 63 is a big project. It requires knowing some distance, population statistics, distance, you know, stuff of that genre. So we have big cities, medium-sized cities, small cities, and then we could divide them into 4. We could categorize them and quantify them in a different manner now, you know. For example, you know that you have the canals, and this is not for us to have flooding, right, when it rains. So it's a whole big system which was built over decades and decades and decades in the 20th century mainly, right? So now we have to upkeep and upgrade and mass invest. That's why I know my public-private partnership dream, which is a call for a mass public-private partnership, is best at this point in time, at least at this point in time where we are today, at this point in time, with the faculties, of course, where we are, to be, of course, integrated in all the civilizational aspects. So that is where we have now, and that's just where we have the idea, and the idea is not just an idea, but it's a fact, because we do have miles and miles of sewers, canal systems underground, right? We do have thousands of miles and canals underground. So that is something which we have. So now I'm gonna go check for the remote control. I love the smell here. It smells so good. Yeah, it smells so good. No, that's nice. So that is just a little bit of a meditation to be. Moment of truth, moment of truth. I bought one, but I don't know if it's gonna work. Maybe. I'm not sure. Hopefully. It says it works, universal, so it should work. It says it works for, I bought it half price than I would have bought it, so it says it works for Roku. See there? Roku, supposed to work. Roku. For Roku, so it was a good deal. It has tax. It has tax. So I guess I have 90 days to exchange it, or it says for 90 days. For 90 days, because I gotta try it to see if it works, right? Because it says it works there on the Roku, but if it doesn't, then I wasted my money. It says four device, four 1, 2, 3, 4 device, and it's quite amazing how they're built. It's made in Vietnam. There's 4 devices, and here in the back it's blacked. See, it's blacked, and it's like, so it's supposed to work on Roku. See there, streaming player brands. It says Roku, and here it says it's supposed to work on Roku, so it's supposed to work. Gonna test it and gonna update one tomorrow. Gonna know if it works, and if it doesn't, well, that kind of sucks, you know. So here we go. Backpack, and to the mountain we go. Sunny day. To the mountain and back to my headquarters. So I guess we're gonna spit it out a few hours. And that's it. If it works, I'm really happy because it's a universal one. So if it works, it's best. That's quite a better deal, because yesterday the deal that I would have had would have been for $25, so $11 difference, and then $15, and some of them were even 30 something, right? Some of them were even 30 something. Yesterday's video, you can see that I go check, and I guess it's supposed to work. I just gotta keep the bill and, you know, keep it intact and put it in the backpack. And I guess if it said there that it works, it should work for Roku, right? It should work for Roku, as it says. If it doesn't work, that's a problem. So rock and roll. It says that's how it's advertised. So I guess a lot of people buy that one because of Roku. If they don't buy the original Roku made remote, you know, then that's where we are with that. So, oh, I got some leftovers, so I saved money. In other words, that's why I hope it works, because I saved $11, even a bit more with the taxes. So this I could spend for sweets for the Sabbath. Spent that $6.50 for the weekend, and already I spent, it was an additional expense, but since I have to replace the remote, you know, because that's how we gotta replace it sometimes, you know, we just gotta replace while we break, you know. And I say usually I don't owe nobody nothing, but in theory I guess my anonymous friend I owe some, like, just out of respect in a way. And thank you to my anonymous friend who gifted me 2 books on autism. They have some chapters included on Asperger's, and one book was loaned 4 times, and that book was a library loan. She loaned it 4 times for me, and it's called Appreciating Asperger's Syndrome. That one's called Appreciating Asperger's Syndrome. And Appreciating Asperger's Syndrome is a great book which I recommend to Aspies, people with autism, also known as HFA, high functioning autism, because Asperger's and autism blended together, fused in 2013. So I am basically on the spectrum of autism, and that's why certain things are more difficult for me. And I've been working, it's a work in progress. I'm part of those 50%, half of those unofficially, who don't have an official diagnosis. But for 9 years now, I've been told by several individuals and citizens who have experience working with autistics and people with Asperger's who have that experience. And in the past 3.5 years, I've accepted it because, you know, all the problems that I encounter to maintain long-term friends, maintain friends, you know, keep friends, maintain friends, make friends. Not that it's difficult, it's maintaining them, and keeping jobs are more difficult for Aspies. Hey, that's one we got to fix right there, eh? As danger zone. And high unemployment rates and high suicidal and high dropout rates for Aspies. High school, a lot of Aspies drop out of high school and even higher education. Myself, I have a high school diploma, but as far as my memory goes, you know, I have trouble accessing my memory prior to February 2014. February 2014, but that's a long time ago. February 2014 is 11 years and 6 months ago. 11 years and 6 months. 7 months already, because we're September. So February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September. 11 years and 7 months. So I have a very good memory of the past 7, 8, 9, 10 years. Then before like February 2014, it kind of goes on that blackout. Like, I have trouble remembering my life prior to that. It's like retrograde amnesia, you know, RA. And sometimes it's caused by trauma. I remember it was attacked by surprise, you know. I remember it was attacked by surprise a few years ago. I was attacked by surprise. Fell, hit my head on the concrete. Had a dislocated right arm, right shoulder, and fell, hit my head, and on the concrete, was hit in the head a few times. I was banged up. I survived a vicious surprise attack. I gave myself a new deadline, October 31st, to go retrieve. October 31st of this year, I missed the deadline, and parallel to the deadline to propose again for the third time. I'm gonna do it like Biden. I got 2 no's, maybe the third one's it, and that's what it is till the end, I guess. And that's what we're gonna get doing with that. Red like my favorite color, red shift. Hey, that's good. I got a Reddit on that, and RED, favorite color. That's a cool one. I guess you pay some extra money for that. And back to what I was saying, I survived a vicious surprise attack, you know. I survived a vicious surprise attack. I survived a vicious surprise attack a few years ago. Oh yeah, a few years ago. I survived a vicious surprise attack and a few years ago, and I fell, hit my head on the concrete, had this dislocated right arm, right shoulder was bloodied up, and I went to the Jewish General Hospital. They put me on some meds. They cracked back my dislocated right shoulder. Crack. And I don't know exactly when that was. And I don't know if prior to 2014, February 2014, basically winter 2014, right? If I was a junkie before, if I was doing drugs, if I was an alcoholic, because that's what can potentially affect memory. And I remember I moved. It was a very moldy place, you know. So I remember living there in that moldy place, very small underground space. It was like a small prison cell. I guess I served my time, you know. I always say I served my time, and I was saved maybe and got the second, third, fourth chances from the goddess, GODDSS as I goddess, in order to serve somebody else and to be of service. And I guess I saved some people along the way with accidents from the car and all the things from the cars and all the things that are happened to others. I guess I saved them in many ways. So I guess I saved others. I was saved in order to do some goods, acts of goodness and kindness, and for my dream, I guess, to manifest, as it is a pledge of allegiance, and it's 24/7, you know, for the firefighters, butchers, bakers, nurses, truckers, electricians, the welders, the grocery store clerks, all those involved in the production and distribution of food, you know. That is what it is with that, and that is something which we gotta say on that satisfactory mode, that I'm grateful for having survived in many ways, you know. Gotta be that gratitude on that, and that is always something which we gotta be mindful today. As I survived COVID in 2020, February 2020 to be specific. February, March, I was really sick of COVID, so yeah, I moved from that place. I thought it was 2016 summer, it ends up it was 2010, and from between like summer 2014 and summer 2017, I was depressed, I was suicidal, and in 2017, celebrating today until the 20th of September, 8 years ago, I traversed Canada coast to coast, and that event made me come out of being depressed. I like that, North American, because we're gonna fuse North, the true North, strong and free, with the land of the free and the home of the brave, and we're gonna add some loving, some reconciliation, some justice, and some work, but North American specialty products. I don't know exactly what those numbers are, but those are quantifications, 6 inches, portable water pipe, and it's go, public workers go, eh? We got some work to do. and see among the concrete some flowers blossomed, and see the 4 bees. 4 bees there, 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, there's more than 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I think 5. There's more than 4 bees, but they love that one. So I guess where there's bees, there's honey. Where the honeycombs at? Rock and roll. And survived. Live with my scars, my trauma, my memory. Sometimes memory comes back though, but it's just, I have a very good memory, and what's not affected by retrograde amnesia or by memory loss such a way is linguistic capabilities and skills or mathematical skills. And I guess I always had Asperger's, and always my special interest was geopolitics, because I did graduate high school. Although I dropped out of college, I graduated high school. I graduated high school, and I have that a reference letter from a teacher where, of course, I was supposed to go to Kingston Military College. I guess I changed my trajectory, and in the past 3.5 years I've accepted my difference, and I live with this being on the spectrum, having a spectrum, I guess, and being a N.A.C.W.P, androgynous pansexual, because due to my reincarnations, I'm 50-50, man, man, in past lives, previous incarnations from ancient Egypt till today. I was born a man, a woman, a man, a woman, a man, man, a woman, woman, a man, man, a woman, man, a man, man, a woman, woman, a man, man, a woman, woman, a man, man, a woman, woman, a man, man, a woman, a man, and now you get that 50-50. You get that 50-50. You gotta read George Patton, Three Glass Darkly, one of my favorite poems and generals, of course. He mentioned reincarnations, and I was born in the United States 3 times. And once as a woman, twice as a man. Post 70-76, I served in the same United States Armed Forces. They were 156 years apart. 156 years apart, the wars, but here I am joyous. But my only stress now is financial, Besides financial stress, now that I get a little bit of sweat, and to be honest, I'm excited that I actually bought the remote control, and I hope that it works. It's supposed to work for Roku, and that I got to save $11 because it was cheaper than the other places. And of course, the other place would have been $25, so this was $14.99 and $25.99. It would have been compared, of course, to being $11, and the other ones would have been $11 plus. And that was, of course, something which, of course, we have to do operate it ourselves in all, of course, the positions where we are, of course, now to get it on the go and get it on the doing. And that's something which we gotta be satisfactory about. A good music, I get a little bit of dance steps. I love dancing, is my favorite sport, and that's something which, of course, we have to do in the intermission where we are now, of course, to be doing on that. And that's something where we have, of course, to do together, of course, in the appellation of the transnational positions where we are to be drilling, and of course to be mindful of all the figurations now. And look at these, of course. Wow, so much work to do, and arbeit to do here. This is a lot of work to do. What if they're hiring on the spot? Maybe I could make some money myself. Turn your heads left and right before you cross the streets. You gotta turn your heads left and right before you cross the street, and that is just something where we are, of course, now in the consequences. That is something where we gotta be doing now, all the trajectories where we are now to be and to be satisfactory. I mean, all this work, it's a lot of work that is for the situations where we are now, with the work being done in all the manifestation where we are now, that it is, of course, something which we have, of course, to resolutely applaud and conduct, all the conduction. Sometimes I use conduction as a phrase for work. Conduction usually I phrase as a phrase for public work, because it's conducts, right? Aqueducts, from the word conductus in Latin. In Latin, conductus, the aqueducts, right? As a conduit, as the water. So of course it is the Latin, of course, where we are, the situational awareness where we are in the plurality of all the circumstantial positions. And yes, love those trucks. Truckers gotta get that rock and roll for it, and that's what we gotta be doing with that, and arbeit and spiel and XYZ, and gotta get it for the domain, the plurality of all the sentiments where we have now interjection. And 1, 2, 3, 4, look at those. Somebody had left them right on the corner there, see? 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 with that, and that is something what we have, of course, to do together. It's kind of funny, but I guess you're giving extra work to the workers, because you're supposed to leave them there. But it's maybe still paid by the hour, I guess. It includes, see, 1, 2, 3, 4 there. 1 there, 1 in the back, 2, 3, and 4. There's 4, see? There's 4 of them there. Left, right here, so I guess, see? 1, 2, 3, and the 4th one is there. Out there. And now see how my brain works. I'm trying to figure out the distance between this one and that 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 one. So right away I calculated, of course, that this distance, that distance is bigger than this distance. So if we are to say, this is how an N.A.C.W.P brain works right here, demonstration. So that's A, that we're gonna say that is A, B, C, D, or 1, 2, 3. So the distance from A to B is whatever, it could be X, Y, Z, right? The distance from B to C is a number, X, Y, Z, and from C to D is another number. But now figuring out the distance of all of them, because there's 3 distances, and then the proportion. So it looks to me that that distance from B to C is almost double than from A to B, and from that distance is more than double than from B to C. So it's increasing, right? The distance between this one and that one and all of them, the distance between this one and this one is a number, and between this one and this one is another number, and between that one and that one is another number. So there's a ratio, there's a proportion by a certain percentage or fraction. It could be, yeah, this is weird, but if a fellow N.A.C.W.P would have been here, we would have probably tried to figure it out, but we can only estimate, because we don't have the meters, right? We don't have, of course, the meters. And of course, not having the meters, of course, is something which we have, of course, to be appellated, of course, in the circumstantial prudence, of course, where we are in all the situational awareness to be XYZ. That is nothing, of course, where we got to be resolutely, that our mind is different. And of course, this divergence is something where we have, of course, to be in all the situational awareness of the prudence. You know, that is something where we have, of course, to be doing like that. Like, it's something what you got to get doing together, you know. And this transformative imagination, but it's not an imagination, so it's actually mathematics, right? It's arithmetic, it's mathematics, it's calculation of distance, and you can also calculate speed, distance, velocity. Those are all mathematics. And see, it seems like somebody had taken advantage, of course, to be in the consequential on the appellation of the motives, of course, where we are now to be inconclusively in all the domain name apparatus that this beautiful sun is shining. And now we're, of course, going to go by that way, and we're going to cut it to go to the mountain a different way than we usually do. But now, you know, this kind of brings me a lot of joy, you know, this mathematics. And another thing that I do in my marches, my long walks, marches to the mountain and back. So, as I discussed yesterday, I try to calculate, so again, estimations of the cost of living crises, and the cost of living, it's increasing because of the price of gas increasing, you know. Because of the price of gas increasing. See, there's my way to turn, but of course they were a bit late to the game, so they always have to be prudent. So for example, what I'm discussing now about, so this discussion about now is, of course, wait, I'm gonna cross safely, 17, I got plenty of seconds. So of course, the price of gas has went up considerably, right? So the price of gas went up by a big proportion. So now there's different cars on the road. So I'm not gonna calculate the public transportation, although it's good job to the public transportation. I will, of course, quantify the car. So that car, see, that car and this car and this car, they're all different cars. So they all, of course, calculate, of course, differently, you know, all calculate differently. The calculation has to be divergent, has to be different, because we cannot calculate all the same. But since I don't know the exact consumption of gas, I can always do a speculation from what I know from the information of the cars. So some cars eat more gas, consume more gas, right? Some cars consume more gas per 100 kilometers, right? But the numbers will be an estimation. So keep in mind that the price of gas, average price of gas in Montreal in February 2020, before COVID, right when COVID started, was 93 cents. The average price in August of this year was 163. Okay, so 163 minus 93, 100 minus 93, that is 6 plus 63, let's say it's about 70 cents, right? Or even if it's 74, because sometimes it's 166, the average price of gas. So being that this average price of gas average price of gas, right, has increased by more than 70% because it's from 93, you know. It's from 93 cents, right? That was the average price of gas, February 2020. So now each and every one of these cars pays more, right? That's the variable as well, right? What is the constant? The constant, mathematical constant here, is the gas consumption, right? Of course, when it's on the highways, it consumes more. But let's say there's an average per 100 kilometers from the city where they're going. Now they're going west towards the sun, and the other ones on the other layer, they're going east, right? Now the camera's pointing south, and now the camera's pointing north. Now I'm heading east, right? So the formulation of the mathematical formula would be to calculate, for example, an average of the cars, right? There is, in real time, there's this number for, of course, for the hourly, daily, weekly, monthly, or even annually, right? So again, we go into macro mathematics, but it has to do with the cost, right? So each and every one of these cars inadvertently pays more because the cost of gas went up by about 70%, although it's a bit more. It's about 72%, even a bit more, right? So if they pay 72% more while their salaries has only increased by 5% or 6%, then of course that means in the category, of course, of the situation that they pay more. All the situational awareness is something which you have to be transmissive about and get it on the go with now and get it on the plateau, of course, to be interjection about something which, of course, doesn't quantify, of course, in the informational awareness of all the procedures where we are now, of course, in the interdynamics, you know, is something which you have to live with. If you don't have Asperger's, these things can seem like very strange, very weird, very bizarre for you, for a non-neurotypical. But this is how the Aspi brain, my brain is an individual Aspi, not all Aspi brains are the same, but this is the variance, and sometimes we're prone to these mathematics, right? So the average, so of course the constant is that it has increased. The constant is that it has increased, you know. That is just the constant things that it has increased, you know. That is just the constant things where we have increased, you know. That is just the constant things where we are, of course, in the situational awareness, you know. That is just how it is. That is just how it is, you know. That is just how it is. And that is just the satisfactory part, of course, to be, and of course to be in the situational awareness that it is to be what it is, which is our brains are different. But see, some of this difference is, of course, the mathematical aspect, where it is now, of course, to be in the congruent part of all the operational, of course, dynamics where we are now, to be in conclusions and, of course, intermittently, which we are, of course, now we are different. And so this difference, of course, is concomitantly where we are now, of course, to be situational awareness, of course, that we are on the plateau, to be interjectionally, and to be, of course, all the dynamics, to be situational awareness, to be now, of course, the dynamics, that we are the difference. And this difference can be a blessing in disguise, in a ways, right? Because, of course, that is the situational awareness where we are, of course, now, and where we are, of course, in the situational plateau, where we involve ourselves in the domain names, where we are to be situationally aware of the gas consumption, and it's a calculation that's happening in the processes of the mind. So I was trying to calculate, but of course this is only going to be an estimation, because I would have to have the numbers, and I could do that, I guess, all day, you know. But now I do it on the march because I'm working out, so I'm integrating the geopolitics, of course, of oil, of course, which is mostly dominated by OPEC, right? Which is mostly dominated by OPEC. Still, although paradoxically we cannot take it, extract it, without too much cost, being it too costly or too environmentally friendly. But in Canada, we have the tar sands in Alberta. The tar sands are supposedly maybe even the biggest reserve in the world, with a question mark. Supposedly biggest in the world, maybe. The tar sands. There's some dispute about the oceanic next to Venezuela. There's something supposedly that's really high, rich in petroleum. But these are the tar sands in Alberta, which, of course, in theory, we cannot extract it. It costs a lot. It has gotten better, and we have more development, but it has gotten better, right? But that is just how it is in the markings, of the petroleum extraction business. And myself, I don't drive, but if I would drive, is that red, red, red? Hey, the other day you were going the other way. You were going south. What's going up? You're going north and south. That's good. I wonder how speedy it goes, how fast it goes, you know, how fast it goes. And for the North American legions, the SSD, we're gonna need some helicopters, we're gonna need some choppers, we're gonna need some trucks, we're gonna need all open for the hotels, the motels, all the transportation has to be opened, and all, of course, the intermittently, the transportation, the food, the lodging, for what we're going to create as a public-private partnership and integrate it with all existing organizations and institutions, being that it's going to be the Dragon Army. So that, of course, situational awareness is, of course, the fact where we are now present to be and to meditate and to continue my meditation on the gas, because I haven't finished and my mind's still processing some information. So this was just in Montreal, right? I cannot calculate, of course. There's a proportion and a ratio for Montreal vis-a-vis others. So the proportion, of course, vis-a-vis others is that it has increased even in the United States, across Canada, coast to coast. But I'm speaking from a Montreal perspective. Montreal, so it's still a metropolis, second most populated city in Canada, one of the top biggest in the world. It's the 7th when including, of course, Mexico. Mexico City, when we include Mexico, is the 7th in the world. In North America, not the world. Correction. Even when we include Mexico City, it is the 7th or 8th, even if we include Mexico. So not in the world, though. Correction. So not, just to specify, clarify, not in the world. Right? In North America, Canada, United States, Mexico. Montreal is the 7th when we include United States and Mexico. And it is, of course, the second most populated city. It was the first for a long time in Canada. So there's a lot of traffic. Now it's rush hour, right? It's rush hour. So there's a high traffic, right? High traffic amount. Turn your heads left or right, because you never know. Sometimes they come fast. So, of course, being that it's a high traffic area, I can only calculate it for a segment, and that segment has to be applied the principles. So the principle is that in the past 5 years during COVID, the price of gas went from 93 cents average to about a 163 average. That's about how much it averages now. So that's how much it averages now. So that's about an increase of about more than 72%. But how many salaries have increased the same? Not a lot, eh? Not a lot. So not a lot of salaries have increased by the same proportion. That is where it is, the dynamics. They're not. The problem is, of course, the salaries have not kept up. Right? The salaries have not kept up with the prices increasing. The salaries have not kept up with the prices increasing. So the prices have gone up. Price of other things, not just gas, but the cost of living has stagnated. Right? And many are paying way more on gas. And the constant is the gas consumption of the car, and the variable is the gas price. The gas price. So that's where the problem lies, with the prices of gas. And see, sometimes I calculate. So we gotta build bridges. See, like this bridge between myself as an N.A.C.W.P, who salutes the train conductors. So we have to build these bridges. And these bridges, of course, have to be built in the concomitant aspect where we build them, you know. So these bridges, of course, have to be built between us and you. Small bridges, medium bridges, large bridges, extra large bridges. So these bridges, small, medium, extra large, large. Small, medium, large, extra large. Just like when you order coffee, you might order a small one, small fry, small coffee, or both, a small or a large. You might order a small coffee and a large fry. I don't know. I'm just saying, like, those are the bridges that have to be built. So those bridges are different sizes that we have to be built. Those bridges are different sizes, and of course those sizes of the bridges have to be built intermittently in whatever the situational awareness which we have now to be concomitant of all the life-affirming matters of where we are today. Right? So this car also consumes, it has a certain amount, I don't know exact amount, But what is the constant? Is the consumption. Correction. I mean no, the consumption per kilo. So the amount per 100 kilometers. But the distance, what I meant to say, the constant is how much it per distance, right? So the distance of it, the distance, it always gonna consume per 100 kilometers the same amount, whether 8, 9, 10, 11 liters. I'm not gallons. Correction. So okay, I have to be specific. Kilometers and miles, they differ. So this car would be, of course, XYZ amount per. Would be XYZ amount per. This one would be XYZ amount per. So of course it consumes per 100 kilometers. It could be miles and gallons, but that's easily done in proportion. Mathematical conversion, that could be easily done. But specifically because I'm in Montreal, I'm gonna refer it for gallons. Not gallons, but liters. Although in the United States it would be gallons. So that is, of course, just the situational awareness where we are, of course, intermittent to be now, of course, in the prudential awareness where we are at the specifics. So that is the constant. The amount it consumes. The amount it consumes, right? So what is the variable? The variable is the cost. The cost. And the cost has increased, right? So now we are to see that since it costs average more than 70% more, 72%, since it costs average more than 70%, that means that that's where the most people suffer because of this massive increase in the gas price, right? Because that's the variable, mathematical variable, and that is of course the constant. See how my Aspi brains work? Yeah. Well, I guess with a fellow Aspi would have kind of discussed it more in depth, of course, but that's a reality of that car, of all the cars. This car, that car, these forthcoming cars. That is the reality of that. And there's no way around it, right? There's no way around it. But there's no way around it. You know? There you go. There's no way around it. There's no way around it. You cannot escape that, you know? There's no way around that. You know? So there's no way around navigating the cost of the petroleum, right? So there would be a solution, I guess. People will have to diminish their travel, right? Just the travel, you will have to cut it, diminish it. That would be, I guess, the solution in these terms. But then analyzing it furthermore, that would be meaning, of course, that in such circumstances you wouldn't be able to do it because you have to go to a certain work and you have to travel for work and then buying groceries and all that. So that is, again, a mathematical constant, you know. That is just a mathematical constant, you know. Mathematical constant. See, for example, this car, I'm gonna end it with this one because I can go on and on and on. This car has a certain consumption, right? X, Y, Z. XYZ. So this car consumes a certain amount of liters or gallons per kilometers distance when it travels, per kilometers or miles. So that is of course the that is of course the constant. It never changes. It never changes. It never changes. It never changes, you know. It never changes. Never changes, right? That's the constant. It's always going to consume X amount of liters or gallons per 100 kilometers. Usually it's per 100 kilometers or per 100 miles. So I'm going to say it's 13 liters, not gallons. A gallon is 4 liters. So no. Per 100 kilometers is about 11 or 12 or 13, let's say 13 liters, right? So that means that in 2020 February, 13 liters to get 100 would have of course cost, right, way less than what they have to pay for it now. Way less, because 13 times it was 93. That's not right, 93 cents. That's $9.30. That's $9.30. And 3, of course, it's 27.9 cents. Don't ask me how I did them that fast. The numbers just popped into my mind, right? They just popped into my mind. So that's about the cost, right? That would be about the cost for that. But now they're gonna pay way more, because for the same 13 liters, which is the constant per 100 kilometers, for every liter now they have to pay 166 a day, right? So then for 10 liters you're in the $16.60, and then you have 16.6 times 3, because there's a 3 liter difference. So you get already 48. So that's $4.80, right? So yeah, you get yeah, it gets to costing almost $22 for that same car, comparison to, you know, the 12 point something, $13 before. So you see how big difference is it. It's like $7-8, you know, $8. Maybe like 22. Yeah, $9 more. You know? $9 more. About, you know. About. That's what it is. About. The cost. What is that? Poetry. I like poetry. Solstice. Of course, that computation for that car, and that's what we're gonna end it with that. So Asperger's, gonna spend 4 minutes on Asperger's. That is how my brain works now. And you even see, I could have, if I wouldn't have managed my characteristics, I could have just continued for hours and hours and hours until I would have reached the mountain about this specific mathematical reality of the distance and the car consumptions and the gases. But now I'm just gonna go on Asperger's. So you see, our brains are different, so we interact with the world differently. We have certain problems where we have to draw the line as Aspies is we have to say no and reject the categorization of Asperger's as being evil, negative, bad, or malicious. That's why we have to finish with that, you know. We have to stop categorizing it as evil, as bad, as evil, as malicious. It's not evil. It's not bad. It's not malicious. It's not negative. So it's not evil. It's not bad. It's not malicious. It's not negative. It's not evil. It's not bad. It's not negative, you know. It's not evil, it's not bad, it's not malicious, it's not negative, you know. So that is just how we are today, where we have to reject that appellation as even, don't say demonic, you know. Don't say demonic, you know. Don't say anything like that. So it's not evil, it's not bad, it's not evil, it's not demonic. That's why we have to reject it. So that is where we have, of course, to reject it. And that is just how we have, of course, to say. So that is something where we have, of course, to appellate and integrate in all the institutional projections. Right? That is just where we are, you know? That is just where we are. Right? To discuss Asperger's. So we have to reject the designation or the categorization of Asperger's or Aspies as being evil, bad, negative, malicious, and other negative. Yes, we have traits, characteristics that are odd, yes, bizarre and strange, but not evil, bad, negative, or malicious. Right? That's just what must be understood fully. And in order to build the bridges, look at this beautiful, colorful, so much color here. I just love it, especially these ones are so nice. Let's smell a bit. Yeah, kind of scented a bit, but really nice, those ones there in the corner. These are followed by other nice ones. So because I'm part of that 50, half of the population who live with this neurodivergence known as Asperger's, that is not bad or evil or negative, that I have to discuss it and address the solutions, because there are solutions, you know. There are solutions. Solutions, we have to be building the bridges. We have to be building the bridges. We have to be building the bridges. The 4 size bridges. Sometimes small, medium, large, extra large. Sometimes medium, large, extra large. Look at those beautiful yellows ones. So that is just something which, of course, we have to be doing. That is just something what we have to be doing, you know. So that is something where we have to be now. You know? So that is where we are now. That's where we are, you know? In the matters. At hand, nice red. That Asperger's is a neurodivergence. It's not bad, it's not evil, it's not negative. But we have some problems when it comes to social interactions. When it comes to social awareness. Social awareness can be more difficult. The way we interact is different. We might not fully get certain things, or not that we don't get, you know, we don't fully, our brain processes the information different. So yes, in certain things we just don't get certain gossip, sometimes certain gossip or certain jokes, you know, certain jokes we just don't get, certain gossips, stuff like that. Our brain just kind of blocks, you know. I'm somebody who never bought, I mean, my memory before 2014, February, winter 2014 remains a mystery. Well, that's what I was doing, but maybe sometimes it comes back. So because of that, what it is important today, I guess, is that I have accepted my difference, my Asperger's. Look at that, that's Deutschland. My Asperger's, and I have to work on these characteristics. I have to work on these characteristics. I have to work on those characteristics, you know. I have to work. And you have to work. It's a reciprocal. It's you then. See this bridge? We have to build bridges. And it takes a mutual understanding. It takes a mutual understanding. And then it takes mutual effort to build the bridges. It's a mutual effort to build the bridges. And sometimes it requires more effort, sometimes less, sometimes it's easier. And we can have, so I don't use the word symptoms. We can have repetition of words, phrases, and echolalia. Echolalia are getting too close in conversation to people, breaching personal space. It's not that we will to. Sometimes we're just direct and straightforward, and we kind of don't know exactly when to stop conversation or that somebody's not listening. Or I would have trouble, of course, knowing if somebody is interested in me, you know. I would have trouble knowing if somebody is interested in me. And I'm not looking necessarily, and if I marry somebody who's going to be person I proposed already, but men and women, I am androgynous pansexual, so just friends with benefits only, you know, just don't waste my time. You got to be of age though, 18 plus, 18 plus. 18 plus on that one, black or white, 18 plus, men or women. But I would have problems knowing if somebody's like is interested in a certain relations, whether XYZ, lustful nature or whatever nature, sexual nature, erotic nature, friends with benefits, because that's what I do, and friends with benefits or pledge your allegiance to our family. But I would have some aspects would have more difficulty than others. I guess myself, I wouldn't quite know if if somebody was interested in having a friends with benefits relations, whether homosexual or whether you're a woman or a man, black or white, rainbow. You can do that gridiron, and lusts and are to be channeled. Sexual energies and things of this nature have to be channeled. And I'm not sexually frustrated, and if I would be, I would discuss it. I guess I have a healthy, regular masturbation, and I'm part of the LGBTQ community, and it's something which is important, because sometimes just sexual liberation and the energies. But from what I remember, because I don't remember my life prior to like February 2014, but I'm in the open about my sexuality and being androgynous, pansexual for many years. It's not something that I hide. I don't know when, if I came out, I guess more than 11 years ago or what, but maybe before that I was in the closet. Maybe that's why I was depressed or suicidal, or before that, and all the significant developments of my life where we are now to be. I'm of course gonna cross the street to get a little bit of that hydration. I just gotta make sure that nobody hits me, in a car here. So I always gotta be prudent on the crossing of the street. Always gotta be prudent when I cross. Here, I guess sometimes it's best to just wait, and then you can go at the light if you can, or you can go at the other side. What I'll do now is I'll cross here because now they're kind of blocked, and I'm just gonna go by the side. I really need to get hydration, And here the bikes come, see? So because of the bikes come, you gotta hurry up. So the bikes come, and you gotta hurry up with that. And this is the water. Imagine all the work underneath, of course, to build water. To build the water with that, and that is something which, of course, has to be built in this domain, plural names, where we are now, to be building water and to be drinking water from somebody's building it. Drains a muscle, so yeah, gotta rock and that rolling, man. Let's go. Ah, yeah, that feels good, man. Oh, there's the helicopter again. Now it's going south. Is it the same red RED one? How fast is it going? Gotta calculate. This 4 calories. Gonna disinfect it and just somebody drop it. Is it expired? No, until 2026. 4 calories. Interesting. What is this? Somebody had dropped it. Is it open? No, it's sealed. Is it? Let me check. Okay, it's still sealed. Vegan, product of Korea. 4 calories, look at that. I'm gonna disinfect my hands because I touched it, so I'm gonna disinfect my hands and gonna disinfect the product. So gonna disinfect both the product and my hands. Because if I leave it there, it's gonna get crushed by a bike or by the car. It's gonna get wasted. So it's good until 2026. So this is the disinfectant I'm gonna use. It's important to disinfect, hand sanitize, you know. I put a bit too much. It's that gooey stuff, see? But it works. Kills the bacteria. Not gonna the tip a bit here, but it's inside, you know. You open this and it's sealed. So it's still sealed. I just unsealed it myself a bit. But see, it's still sealed there. So you just gotta rip this off to open it. These little strings. There we go. Guess I'm gonna taste it up when I get back home, along with the fries, and that's gonna be locked. And now we're gonna disinfect the hands, and it's something which we're gonna get doing with that. Of course, drilling on the go, and that is just something which we're gonna add more. 4 seconds, 4, 3, 2, 1 on the go, and that's just something which we're gonna get on that go, man. And that's where we are. Towards the sun we go. Yeah, we're gonna turn there and go exactly towards the sun, towards the sun as we go, and that's something which we're gonna be mindful of. All the trajectory of all the, because we want to get more sun. That's basically why we're gonna turn that way. So now we're gonna go north. So of course, interposition in the north. Here you gotta be careful. Although it's now you can kind of go. Now you can kind of pass. See. You got 4 seconds, 21 seconds, 20 seconds. See, 18 seconds. And then you cross to the other side, you know? So that's basically how it goes. That's basically how the domain name goes. And that's a nice crane. I always wonder about cranes, how they operate, you know? The cranes, of course, are something which enable us to have, of course, all our civilizational complexes, you know, from my past videos, that I love, of course, the operators of the cranes. Crane operators got to get it on that 24/7, of course, for the interjection. And always meditate, of course, all the cranes. Now I got 11 seconds till I pass, but meditate. That's a beautiful crane, man. Crane operator there. Oh, wow, look at that crane. Look at that crane. That's what it is with that, and that's how we gotta get on that go, man, you know? Look at that beauty. Isn't that just awesome? I like that, written in red. I guess you gotta have a little bit of marking on the property-wise, and I think there's clouds. I'm not gonna get much sun, but I decided to take a trajectory to just change a bit of the dynamics, but because I was gonna go by the side and then come back. So there's many ways you can go to the mountain, you know. Usually we get that zigzags, so getting on that zigzags is always something which I like to do, and sometimes I like to change it up a bit. So we're gonna get on that going, and I need to disinfect again, because now I found the third. Here, this is made in Quebec, Canada. The third, this is gonna go perfect for the fries. I disinfect my hands again for the third time, and I found it. I guess somebody had dropped it, and it's a sweet and sour sauce. So now I got 3 food items to, when I get back to my headquarters. When I get back to my headquarters, I got, of course, on that go, and that's always good, I guess. Just let me disinfect my hands a bit. One more again, one more time, one more again. We begin, we bargain, where the sun at, where the sun at. And the sun's there, it's just the clouds are blocking the sun rays, right? I put some disinfectant again on my hands and rub a little bit less because it's a little bit less, and also rub this with it, disinfect it. 1, 2, 3, 4. So now the food items are disinfected. So I guess I got some food, I got food in my fridge, but I guess this is an extra, and with my extra spending on the remote control, which I gotta be grateful because I saved some money by going to that Canadian Tire. I still have old Canadian Tire money, and I don't know what I had when I moved from that place where I used to live over there in Côte-des-Neiges, underground, small prison type of cell. I didn't even have a bathtub, I didn't even have a bathtub. It was so small, tiny, moldy, very moldy. I didn't even have a bathtub. It was lots of mold, and it was like a small prison cell, That is something where we gotta get doing like that, and something is where we gotta get doing on that go with that, where we gotta get to know ourselves. Sometimes we just gotta wait 4 seconds. Maybe I'm not gonna go. I was gonna wait. So I was living in that moldy place, small underground basement. It was a small underground basement. It was like a small type of prison cell. It wasn't really a prison cell, but it was very moldy, Very moldy. Oh yeah, if I could afford it, I could get one of these. But I'm budgeting now. How much is it? There's no price here, but it looks really good. All these kind of look really good, and you get the fourth, you get the drink. But I guess it's a menu cornichon. It's new. So whatever the case may be, I used to live over there in a small moldy place. Please, when you hear the sirens, ambulance, firefighters, get out of the way. Do the 180, When you hear the sirens, you do 180. 180 to the left, 180 to the right, and that gives you a circle, what I call the citizen security circle. Lady, be careful. Lady. Fellow citizens gotta be careful, see, because it's the ambulance. So do the 180, slow down your car. Your vehicle can be $1 million, but most important is, of course, the body. BODY, the body. My body is trillions. It's a tool for pleasure and purpose. For pleasure and purpose, the body is a tool for pleasure and purpose, and that's what we gotta get doing with that. And that is, of course, the appellation where we gotta see together, see together for our safety. So do the 180. When you hear the ambulance, the firefighters, this is the 180. So you go to the left or to the right, 180. 180, right? Then to the right, to the left, 180. When you hear the ambulance. So you hear the ambulance. You go 180, right? You turn 180 to the left or to the right. When you go that 180, And that's what they gotta get doing with that, and that's what we gotta get doing with that there. So that's just for security, for prudence. It's something which we all should do, and we should be instructed actually to do. That instruction, which of course has to be done. To do the 180 to the right, 180 degrees to the left. That's the 180. When you hear the ambulances, the firefighters, the police, that is my own constructed citizen public security protocol, what I call the 360 degree citizen public security protocol for these tough times. And gonna finish on Asperger's, and we're gonna go on what I know. But 180 to the left and to the right, that gives you a full circle view. So if you do the 180, the 360, of course we're gonna give it the 360. This is kind of the 360.